to speak on the details. Later, I will make a supplement. Does any member wish to speak? Mr. Gary Fan, I call a quorum.
有冇委員要發言？
Does any member wish to speak? Mr. Chi-chuen. Thank you, Chairman. I continue to make a short supplement on the reasons for cutting ISD's budget. I speak on Amendments 376 and 377. They are moved by Mr. Albert Chan and Mr. Kwok-hung respectively. That is equivalent to the amount of expenditure budget for the sponsor visitors and visiting VIPs, and also speaking engagements outside Hong Kong. The total is about $43 million. In fact, that happened last month. The director of ISD, vice chairman, vice assistant director, deputy director, and assistant director, and altogether 7 senior officials of the ISD met with a Mr. Hu of the World Times or Global Times, and after having a meal with these 7 officials, Mr. Hu put his photo on the website and criticized the ISD, and people criticize ISD for dining or really having a meal with the 50-cent scam.
So on that occasion, 7 of them had a meal, had a dinner with editors of World News. Altogether, there were 12 of them. They had Chinese food. Do you know what the World News is? If you look it up on the internet, it's an official newspaper, government newspaper, and it's been criticized for telling lies. And they're experts in telling lies. They live in lies. Although this is a comment made on the internet, it may or may not be true. Mr. Hu went to the Chinese University to give a speech. Professor Zhao Bochong of CUHK took down a shoe in protest. Half of those who were present did not buy Mr. Wu's story. Mr. Wu said the majority of the 1.3 billion people in China agreed with the Chinese Communist Party. And it's just one newspaper, and all the senior officers of ISD had lunch with the editors of this newspaper. Would they do the same with editors of the Apple Times? There are so many media on the mainland. They are all government-backed. How many can you entertain? We all know that this newspaper's views are biased. I won't argue with you about that. We have been accused of staging a filibuster, although we are not. So is ISD in collaboration with World Times in making the allegations? But that's all I want to say about ISD. I hope you will support amendments from 377 to 379 proposed by Mr. Leung Kwok-hung in respect of the budget for ISD. I will not offer further comments. From what I have told you, you can judge whether we should cut the entire year on publicity or the entire budget for promoting civic responsibility, or to do a minimum. For example, 379. It's just a cut of $644,000. It's just a small penalty to urge the ISD to review this practice. Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Albert Chan. Chairman, I spoke a moment ago to cut the budget on publicity conducted by the CMAB. Earlier on the promotion of the constitutional reform, this ball pen was sent to my office. I'm using it. It's good, but these publicity activities are not useful. Publicity is really about benefits. We'll continue to ask 689 to step down, the CSA for A to step down, and we'll continue to carry out civil disobedience. We must try to find out how much it costs to produce this pen. And we should also ask the Director of Audit to take a look on how on whether it's a good idea to give out pens to publicize the consultation on constitutional reform. I was also talking about a moment ago about overspending. The officials should resign to take the responsibility. For 2 years in a row, they exceeded their budget. This year maybe it would happen again. There's an agreement between the government and broadcasters to publicize government messages free of charge. It's during prime time. It's done during prime time, 6:30. You can do away with the national anthem clip, and the time will be very good for whatever publicity you want to carry out. Which amendment are you talking about, Mr. Albert Chan? I'm talking about Amendment 776. The cut of the entire year's budget of CMAB, $44.1 million. 2012, 20 million, 2013, 20 million. In 2012, there was an overspending by 6 million. 2013, overspending was 12 million. We must censure the Bureau for doing this. If you say you are very capable, it must not be achieved by spending a lot of money. We reserve 20 to 30 million to you, and you end up spending 10 million more. If you are really capable, you must be able to keep the spending within the budget. Otherwise, you'll just be spending your money to get things done. Well, this is not about capability. This is about your lack of courage. If you give people this pen so as to win over people, it's corrupt. Chairman, I've been talking about a lot about problems of the CMAB. I will now turn to the next item. It's amendment number. Oh, I haven't finished the last one. I now turn to Mr. Leung Kwok-hung's amendment. It's number 793. Before I do that, I would like to supplement a bit on the criticism of CMAB's publicity. $8.5 million among the budget on publicity will be spent on consultation regarding constitutional development. Well, the Occupy Central movement is more effective from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. There were so many news stories about the protests. If you say something worth reporting, the media would certainly report what you say. Mr. Leung Kwok-hung doesn't need to pay for advertisements, and he's better known than the officials. If what you say is of high quality, you don't have to spend money to get attention. So you should delete the broadcast slip, the video clip for the national anthem, and you can broadcast the message you want to get across. There's no need to pay for publicity. If Mrs. Carrie Lam says she agrees that the functional constituency should be deleted, and she's in favor of a public nomination, that it will be all over the papers tomorrow. There's no need to spend any money for the publication of such messages. Well, they spend money because they are scared, they are not confident, and they want to buy support. And of course, this is not something for Hong Kong to decide. The one to make the decision is in Beijing. Some people have described this exercise as a fraud. Let me now turn to Mr. Leung Kwok-hung's amendment number 793, the cutting of subhead 000 under head 144. And it's $7.1 million, which is the annual budget for the CMAB's expenditure to host the 10th Pan-PRD Cooperation and Development Forum. We give priority to local economy and local values. We should not allow capital from outside Hong Kong to affect our planning and our development. In the past decades, in the past 100 years, we were self-sufficient. We were the pearl of the Orient, and now we have been painted red, like a roast pig. Mr. Chen, please be succinct. I'm concerned that Hong Kong will become a roast pig. All right, your point noted, Chairman. This is Pan-Pearl River Delta Regional Cooperation and Development Forum. This is a 10th forum. $7 million will be spent on this forum. If you look at the 9th conference and forum, through such forums, the Beijing authorities would plan for Hong Kong based on the mainland's own planning. This is the ideology. They want to set the tune based on their ideology, and this would definitely ruin Hong Kong. The Hong Kong we know will be turned into a place ruled by Beijing. So you can imagine how bad the situation can be. So there's no reason why we should accept this. Why we should accept? There's no reason why we should accept planning by the Central Committee of the CCP. Hong Kong used to be the most livable city, and now with the adverse impacts brought by mainland visitors, we now rank behind Zhuhai. Zhuhai is number 1, Hong Kong is just number 2. And the more discussion forum we have, our status will continue to deteriorate.
In the past, there were no such meetings, there was no such planning. And still, Hong Kong's development was smooth and beautiful. A lot of mainland visitors come to Hong Kong to see our beautiful city. If you love the mainland, then you just go to visit mainland cities like Zhuhai. This is a chance for officials to go do some bootlicking for mainland officials. And all these meetings, they follow the same pattern. You talk about the policy, you talk about the background, you talk about the fruit of these policies, and then China becomes a strong nation. And then, there should be a division of labor. Zhuhai will be for entertainment, education, and this area will be for transportation. Hong Kong will be for financial services. Mr. Albert Chen, have you actually been to these meetings? No, but that's what it says in my speaking notes. Your speaking notes, not the speaking notes of in these meetings. I'm sure they won't differ too much. They won't differ too much. Now, let me read some of to you. The 9th, the Guizhou understanding was reached. I have done my research. I'm sure, Chairman, you have been to a lot of these CPPCC or NPCSC meetings. Mr. Chen, you are speaking on the 28th time and the 105th person speaking. Sorry, Chairman, I was quite creative and interesting. No, but according to the rules of procedure, you being innovative doesn't mean that you will be given every chance to speak. This is the 10th one. It's a Guizhou understanding. Let me read it out to you to insist bringing forth the national development and the overall strategy of development and develop a western part of China, actively supporting the development in the eastern part. Well, the great development of the western part of China is not really related to Hong Kong SAR. So this is just a way to publicize the development of the western part of China. About the 9th meeting, and to play into the potential of the competitiveness, to insist on being pragmatic, to promote key cooperation areas, cross-district control projects to expedite standardization of the various markets, to put in place proper cooperation mechanisms, public services areas, and good ecology, develop this, build that. You ask Hong Kong to be included into this eco-civilization thing. You want us to give them millions of dollars to reach this consensus? What's more scary is that to promote closer cooperation with Hong Kong and Macau, to stick to opening up and a multi-tier cooperation and development. So you let different tiers of mainland government to influence and control Hong Kong. Well, that means drinking more multi and be subject to the influence of corrupt practice. Mr. Leung Kwok-hung. Well, I am a man of his word. I'm not going to talk about John Zhang as a person, and I will only do that closer to dinner time. I'm not going to read you a saying that if you want to shoot a man down, shoot his horse first. If you want to catch the thieves, you catch its leader first. Our chief executive, when looking for CS4A, the person is supposed to lead the entire government. Let's look at the CS4A. Does she assign people to the right post? We can see this with our traditional wisdom. There is this person, a famous official called Kwok-hung. He was a prime minister. He was a prime minister in the ancient times. And he was very good in appointing the right person to the right post. Not just that, and he was very good in finding a backup as well. Well, it is said that this famous person, Kwok-hung, is very capable and is indispensable. But there are 3 evil officials. In the government structure, if CS4A Mrs. Carrie Lam knows that there are 3 poor officials there, the ancient prime minister told the head of state that there were 3 incompetent officials. You have the duty to tell your superior which 3 persons can replace these 3 incompetent officials. If you don't have the ability to identify the right man, you cannot become a prime minister, and you will not have the ability to tell your superior not to use these incompetent people, to make sure that they will leave office before I do. I think Mrs. Carrie Lam was wrong in at the beginning. The political crisis started from someone who was recommended by the CS4A, Mrs. Carrie Lam. His name is Mark Chi-chuen. He was a permanent secretary, and he retired, and then he was recommended to be the Secretary for Development. We're talking about an issue of integrity here. Mrs. Carrie Lam said that this person is of integrity, the highest integrity. Well, I asked and I found out that it was the police who did the vetting and checking. Someone who is in a position of a prime minister identifies someone to be his or her right-hand man. Well, do you think that the police would dare to tell the CS4A that this person actually got some dodgy business going on with the housing allowance? Carrie Lam said at the outset that, believe me, Mark Chi-chuen is not someone like that. She is of a high position. If Mark was her friend, I think she was doing a lot for this friend, but well, he is not. But she wagered her own reputation on this person, and it fell through. Mark was recommended by Carrie Lam, and that's why we have Franklin Lam. Could Carrie Lam said to C.Y. Lam, well, your friend Franklin Lam actually is incompetent. He should not be the person to fill the post. Well, although she cannot openly punish herself, at least she should admit her mistake. She stumbled when it comes to Mark Chi-chuen. Two departments were affected. The civil service is an independent and professional force. They are affected because they are supposed to give an independent and an impartial advice. But Carrie Lam changed that. Carrie Lam came from the civil service. She filled the post that is likened to a prime minister. However, she distorted facts to speak for him, and she refused to admit her mistake when there was a trouble. Let's look at Eddie Ng. It's like a domino. Eddie Ng. It's also someone identified by the emperor to be the head of Education Bureau, but he's from Human Resources. Human Resources aims at cutting cost. And what is education? We're talking about something has a far-reaching effect, like planting a tree. You should plant trees indiscriminately, so that in 100 years' time, you will reap the result. But you see that for Eddie Ng, he speaks like a businessman. He talks about 15-year free education as one of his selling points. C.Y. Leung got him to implement the 15-year free education. However, he wants to make sure that every dime is used in a maximum way. But the teaching force simply cannot cope. You cannot put someone in a position where you shouldn't think about cost.
Carrie Lam saw that, but she didn't say a word. Same for Franklin Lam's case, same for Eddie Ng's case. In terms of national education incident, Eddie Ng made a serious blunder, and yet he was allowed to remain in place to mess up the whole thing. And how can the proposal of 15 years of free education be implemented fully? Mr. Lam Tai Fai has spoken a lot, and he is complaining on this matter in respect of providing 15 years of free education. He has failed to convince Mr. Edding to give more to that, to free education. Carrie Lam, Carrie Lam may not have the ability to fully understand her subordinates, and also, even if she understands them, she doesn't have the courage of Guangdong to point out that these three are evil people, evil persons, and they have to be dismissed first before Guangdong goes away. Now, in the Tang Dynasty, the official system was reformed basing on previous experience. This is a very cheap book, the 古文观止. It is a book which it is in fact a collection of classic Chinese literature. This is a collection of Chinese classic literature. Please do not depart. I am not doing filibustering. Now, it's about assessing a person. Now, she is not able to take the trouble away from C.Y. Leung. Instead, he adds trouble to C.Y. Leung. Anthony Cheung, a university professor who supports C.Y. Leung, is given the most complicated policy area, which is housing. In fact, there was the Transport and Housing Bureau. There is the Transport and Housing Bureau. There's an organic link between transportation and housing. And somebody who doesn't have the real-life experience, he is just he was formerly a member of the Democrats, and later he changed his course, and now he is making his living by following C.Y. Leung. And that he is bound to get into trouble. He made a mess in housing. He also made a mess on transport. See, Carrie Lam heard our comments, but she didn't issue any statement. And when Waters said something, Waters didn't tell the truth, and later he just said that there was problem of communication. I think they should fight. They should sort it out. In fact, their lies have been exposed. Their lies do not form a coherent story. Now, a subordinate of Carrie Lam, Anthony Cheung, is threatened. Say the head of the CEO of the MTR said that you gave me not enough money to build the express rail. If you didn't, and you shouldn't tell anybody. Otherwise, the project will fall through. Now, the government holds 77% of the MTRC, and yet the government allows the MTRC to be operated like an independent domain, and there is no one looking after the MTRC. No official cares about the MTRC. And concerning the marine tragedy, the Lama incident, the report was not disclosed, and therefore the victims' families cannot make use of the report to make claims. Well, I commented, I criticized the government, and then on the blog, they criticized me. They said that without money, Hong Kong will die. The officials shouldn't criticize the councillors. The officials should criticize the other government officials who fail their jobs. Mr. Gary Fan. Chairman, I speak in order to explain my Fifth Amendment in this joint debate. The Fifth Amendment is number 750, and that is cutting the subhead 000 of head 142, the expenditure on media study by the CPU. This is the annual budget, a total of $772,800. Since C.Y. Leung assumed office, including 2014, 2015, the CPU 3 years in a row appointed One Country, Two System Research Institute. Mr. Leung, Kwok-hung, what is your question? There aren't enough members to form a quorum.
Mr. Gary Fang. Thank you, Chairman. I was talking about the time since Mr. C.Y. Leung became the CE, and that is in 2014, 2015. And for 3 years in a row, the CPU commissioned the One Country, Two Systems Institute to conduct media studies. Altogether, $2 million was provided. The CPU has only commissioned 4 organizations to carry out such studies. They include Hong Kong U, CUHK, and the Foreign Language University of Guangdong. And only the One Country, Two Systems Institute is not an academic organization. So one wonders whether this institute has the right academic credentials to be commissioned for such studies. The current CEO of this institute is Mr. Zhang Jiguang, an executive council member. He's well known to be an out-and-out fan of Mr. C.Y. Leung. And he's famously known to Mr. Guan Chok-jiu, a local economist, as a unqualified poster. Mr. Li Ga-kit, a CCPCC member, said that the POP of HK Hong Kong University conducted polls to support the cause of the opposition. And then Mr. Zhang Jiguang came out to criticize Dr. Robert Chung, saying that the opinion polls on the CE's popularity were biased. But Mr. Zhang Jiguang only have half-baked knowledge about opinion polls, so he committed very poor mistakes. He offered repeated comments on opinion polls. And commentators and the general public, as well as posters, all said that Mr. Zhang Jiguang was by no means an expert on polling. Mr. Zhang has a bachelor degree in social science. His academic qualification is inferior to other posters working for other polling organizations. Therefore, the institute under his leadership may not have the right qualification to conduct studies on public opinion and media. Under the ISD, there is a local public relations and section which is responsible for reflecting views and opinion expressed in local newspapers and media. And it also provides professional PR advice to the government. In December 2013, Mr. C.Y. Leung appointed Mr. Andrew Fung as the information coordinator. He is tasked with coordinating the government's PR strategy. And he's also responsible for monitoring public and media response to government programs. He's also responsible for arranging the coverage of CE's public activities. And in all government bureaus, in each one of them, there is a political assistant responsible for political liaison with stakeholders and the media, and every political assistant is paid at $100,000 a month. So altogether, and in all government bureaus, there are public relations divisions responsible for enhancing communication with media and with the public. Chairman, all these examples are instances of PR work funded by public money. And I'm talking about many people employed by the SAR government to monitor public opinion and to carry out PR work. There's no need for the SAR government to entrust any study on public opinion and media to the institute led by Mr. Zhang Jiguang. Mr. Xi Wai-leung was a council member of the institute before he became the CE. And Mr. Xu Xinpo, the head of CPU, was the former CEO of this institute, and the incumbent head of this institute is an executive council member. So all these signs have led people to speculate that the institute has been entrusted for 3 years in a row to carry out studies on public opinion and media because of its status as a supporter of Mr. Xi Wai-leung. So it's a political benefit to the institute. Therefore, I want to propose the deletion of the whole year budget for CPU in terms of studies to be conducted by commissioning outside bodies. We should get the full details of the expenditure involved in media and public opinion studies, so that we know whether their money well spent. So I submit. Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Ray Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I'm now going to talk about Head 112, Electoral Commission. There's only one amendment here, but it's important. It's amendment number 553, proposed by Mr. Kwok-hung. It's about a cut of to subhead 366, head 112. It's a cut of $37.25376 million, and that is in relation to the remuneration and honorarium for 35 FC members, including one chairman of the House Committee and a deputy to the president, as well as 3 members who are also executive council members. It's in relation to the budget for the remuneration of these members for the whole year. This is a carefully crafted proposal. I hope all members who are in favor of the deletion of all functional constituency members, please remember this number, 553. Please remember to vote in favor of this proposal. And this amendment should be supported by all, so that we can all show our determination to take forward the constitutional reform. It's important that we delete all the FC members. FC members have been saying that they should be here to have a balanced representation. They say that with FC members, there will be balanced participation by all sectors, and interests of various sectors can be balanced and taken care of. They claim that the FCs cover major sectors in the community, and they are widely representative. And they are also saying that because the representative government system is not yet mature, there are no other arrangements that, like the FCs, that can cater for the balancing of different interests. Before the reunification, when the British ruled Hong Kong back in 1985. Mr. Akers Jones was the chief secretary. He said the FCs should be a transitional arrangement so that from a council not elected at all to it would be transformed into an elected council. The FCs provided votes to some sectors, and their voice, their interest in having a voice here would be protected. So we have been waiting for their phasing out for 30 years. Still, we don't know whether there will be a genuine universal suffrage system. We don't know whether we are going to get equal suffrage. Why is it that this transitional arrangement can last so long? Why are we still talking about whether the FC should continue to exist or not? Well, I think even if the remuneration of these FC members is deleted, they would certainly continue to stay on to represent their own constituencies. FC, a political system with FC members are one with low stability. And if we have different interests brought into this council, the government would share the interests with all these sectors. This is a kind of sharing political spoils. This would lead to the instability because we cannot resolve conflicts through the sharing of these benefits. We want to have a genuine system of universal suffrage in 2017. At the same time, we want to do away with functional constituencies. Functional constituencies are small circle elections. You may have a balance among yourself, but the balance in the community is adversely impacted upon by FCs. And this has led to a loss of credibility in this council because decisions made with the involvement of FC are a distortion of public opinion.
We have the functional constituency together with the split voting. 18 people can veto the resolution from the majority of members. When it comes to balanced participation, and it's a far cry from that in an international standard. Under ICCPCR, it says that a citizen should enjoy the right to stand in an election and the right to vote in a regular election. The FC is a violation of these regulations because both right to vote and right to stand in an election are not on a balanced basis. How come that in the FC there are corporate votes and practitioners don't have a vote? Functional constituency itself is a small circle inside a small circle, and some of the legislators in functional constituency are unhappy because brokers or real estate agents, they cannot vote. You can only vote when you're a representative of a company. 1% of the practitioner represents all of the practitioners, and only 1% of the people can vote. And the vote can be controlled and manipulated. Well, even if you get yourself pregnant, Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, to have triplets, you have to wait 18 years before they can vote. But when it comes to functional constituency, you can actually open more companies to have more votes. But that's why I hear some decent words from people. Mr. Ma Xi-hung, Frederick Ma, said that corporate votes should not be maintained. And that's why even these sectors in functional constituency are unhappy. Well, please take this number down. It's item number 553. If you're in the functional constituency and you're not happy with the situation, vote for this one. Well, when it comes to balanced participation, this is also something that was mentioned when we're discussing about the nominating committee. Say, for example, the fisheries sector is the member here. If you look at the GDP, its contribution towards Hong Kong's economy, you see that the fisheries sector is 500 times smaller than that of the education. How come that in functional constituency it's one out of 35? As you know that the one representing functional constituency doesn't have to work in that trade, as long as you are remotely related to it. So you see that this is seen as unfair and unequal even within an FC. And there are some that is really puzzling, say sports, culture and publication sector. I don't know how there can be equal participation and equal representation in this sector. Does it mean that the sports, culture, publication sector should be split into different parts as well? And this in turn affects the 4 sectors of the nominating committee. These are all evolved from the FC. And this gives certain people a lot more votes or more power in their votes. Do you think that our youngsters will accept this kind of genuine universal suffrage? If you perpetuate the FC, if you perpetuate the box in which the chief executive is to be elected, then do you call this talk to chief universal suffrage? That's why Mr. Leung Kwok-hung in his amendment number 553 asked to reduce the honoraria of all 35 FC members. Well, here in GC we have Dr. Kwok-hung. We have a doctor. What about lawyers? Yes, we have lawyers coming from the GC. Miss Priscilla Leung is from the GC. She's from the legal sector. We have the business sector in the GC. The Tian brothers, Michael and James. I'm not going to go on. Well, some people adopt a strategy to grab however much you can get, even if it's an FC seat. Well, if we can get half seats of the FC, then if you can't fight it, join it. I think this is really ludicrous. I don't know whether the person who said this to this date still stick to the same idea. I ask members who want to abolish the FC to be here and vote in support of this amendment. Do we not have a political talent? That is, we do have political talents as long as we have a fair system, we have proper progression. Even if if you're from the business sector, you can join the race and maybe even run for chief executive. We need equal participation, not a small circle where who you know counts. The CE election is very important. This is our right, and we need that for better governance. So the reduction of the whole year honoraria of FC members will help expedite our progress towards full democracy. You see that the FC has very little credibility. Even if you're a loyalist, you can't blindly support the administration. You will be phased out if you keep the old way of thinking. And of course, the FC abolition is a constitutional affair issue. But here, we can cut your pay, but we can't cut your power. But that's the only thing we can do at this stage. I know that you can still vote, but some people who are calculating, they may think, if I don't get pay, I'm not going to be a legislator. If FC exists, then these professional groups and chambers of commerce will be more politicized. And if you can't speak, if you don't want to antagonize the government, then you can't speak against the government. If there is no FC, they will not dare go against the wish of their constituents. So please support item number 553 for the reduction of $35,253,760. It's a small amount, but it has a huge symbolic value. I so submit. Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Albert Chan. Thank you. I was talking about promotion of the basic law under the CMAB about the reduction of the budget in that area, their budget in that area, and the forum as well. The Pearl River Delta Forum and the 9th session of the seminar and the result, the consensus, we see that the decision is for the benefit of the mainland and the Pearl River Delta. And Hong Kong's benefit is seen as the one and the same as that of the mainland. So officials responsible for planning. Now we have Paul Chan, who is Leung's supporter. He is responsible for development. And we have these people leading Hong Kong's planning. And I'm sure that the consequence will be dire and disastrous. We should object to this. We should ban government of Hong Kong officials from participating these activities and events. We're talking about $7 million and it's paid by taxpayers. I'd rather use that on canned days with black beans for elderly people. Because as you can see that in these meetings, even the wordings are all jargons of the Communist Party. The more I read it, or see it, the more scared I am. Hong Kong's destruction is just round the corner. I'm talking about item number 795. This is subhead 000. It has head 144. This is a reduction of $3,984,000, which is the annual expenditure of secondment allowance under the CMAB. I object to the continuous opening of mainland offices under this bureau, and as a result, the allowances should be reduced, should be scrapped as well. When it comes to this item, these overseas posting allowance, they will be compensated for the miscellaneous expenses incurred as a result of a change of the location of their workplace, and it's usually given in a lump sum. Married civil servants with family, the allowance is %60 of the maximum point in the MPS master pay scale, or 100% of the actual salary, whichever is higher. When it comes to single civil servants or those not accompanied by family members, that will be 50% of the amount, and that is a huge increase. Maybe because of an increase in a number of staff members. Let's look at the increase over the years. Now you see that there are a lot of canned days lost as a result. For this, in 2011 is 1.6 million, 12-13, 2 million, and it dropped to 1.69 million. And this year's budget, it has increased to $3.98 million.
The increase is alarming. Each staff member will be given about $300,000. Some of them are AOs. Some of them are civil servants of other ranks and grades, including trade, those responsible for trade and immigration matters. It should be deleted altogether. They can make use of a hotline or an internet service, or a suggestion by Mr. Longhair, sort of like Dr. Ruth, hotline. If people can consult on sex matters online, why can't they do it in handling the other questions? Dr. Ruth was very popular, a Jewish lady, old lady who answered a lot of questions on sex matters. Let me now turn to Amendment 783. This is an amendment moved by Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, cutting subhead 000 from head 144 by $16 million, which is equivalent to the budgeted expenditure of the CMAB for promoting the basic law. They spend $16 million in promoting the basic law. They spend millions of dollars on promoting other things. If you read a press release, a newspaper report on a seminar on promoting the basic law, they treated the participants to meals. They gave luxurious meals to the participants. I think the DAB is very good at it, giving people meals, giving people presents. Mr. Chen. Well, just ask the DAB to promote the basic law. The government doesn't need to do so. The DAB raised $13 million, but just a single drawing. Mr. Chen, you are speaking for the 29th time. Please do not repeat. I am not repeat. I ask you not to digress. Well, I would just make a tangent. Well, making a tangent is also a digression. Now, the $16 million thrown down the drain. If you look at the political reform, the Bar Association issued his position paper, and then there it is widely reported, and then there are a lot of consultations. Now, through the media, there arise many rounds of discussions. It is far more effective, more interesting, and more controversial than the government's APIs. Now, if the issue is controversial, if the issue is interesting, then people would pay attention to that. But if it is just government official publication, then it's really not interesting at all. I came across a basic law exhibition, a political reform exhibition, and nobody looked at it. Now, you just ask people to fill in a return, and then you gave people a pencil or a ball pen. That's also useless. And you better ask the pro-government groups, loyalist groups, give their views on various issues. Then they will be reported by the journalists widely. There is no need to make use of public money to promote the basic law. The more the government promotes, the less the credibility it gains. So it just goes against your wish. Now, if the opposition speaks more on something, they gain more trust. So if it is just official propaganda, people just don't believe it. You spend public money to promote certain things, and people will have less trust in these things, then you shouldn't spend money on that. Now, of the $16 million, using the electronic media such as the TV stations and radio stations, about $4.3 million will be spent on that. And then through district publicity campaigns such as roving exhibition to promote people's understanding of the basic law, $10 million. And then strengthening the cooperation with local groups to organize various campaigns like seminars and debate competitions, another $600,000. Of course, you need to get people to do it. You need to form a working group led by one PAS and then 4 supporting staff. This is really a boring job. You will have to resign. It's so boring. This kind of job is really not worth it. And they are just governing Hong Kong by lies. Nobody trusts the government. Li Fei spoke on the basic law, but there were no follow-up discussions to enhance people's understanding of the basic law. Based on these reasons, these $10 million shouldn't be spent. When it comes to the government doing this kind of thing, it's just passing on favors, just like the mega event fund is passing of interest. Let's see how it's giving out favors. See how the ICAC and the police investigate into that. Now, for the meals, the district councils organize meetings. Mr. Chen, you've digressed. I am not, because this is waste of public money. That obviously, Mr. Chairman, giving favors is the reason for objecting the funding for such activities. That is well grounded. For the above reasons, we should cut that budgeted expenditure. As for roving exhibitions, I've checked the information. They don't have records on the number of visitors to those roving exhibitions. The Audit Commission should look into that. Now, when we organize activities on behalf of the district councils, when we applied for funds, we had to fill in the number of participants, and then the district council would check on you and looked at what the situation actually was. Now it's public money, it's organized by civil servants, and yet there are no objective numbers disclosed. That is absolutely not the established arrangement for using public funds. Based on these reasons, we have to object to this budgeted funding. Chairman, there aren't enough people to make a quorum. A quorum call, please, Mr. Chairman. Kwok-hung is not here.
三位議員。
Mr. Albert Chen. Thank you, Mr. President. President, the next item that I'm going to speak on is Amendment 371. Is to cut subhead 00 by cutting $17 million. Is about the spending by the GIS on public relations and also the dissemination of information. So it's the annual spending. So it's rather comprehensive and important. So I'll be waiting till after Mr. Kwok-hung has spoken before I explain why there is a special meaning in cutting this out from the GIS, in particular when it comes to government's governance and also the accountability system and also the development of our constitutional development. These are closely related. So I'll be elaborating on the reasoning in a moment. Who else would like to speak? Mr. Kwok-hung? Mr. Chairman, sorry, I stepped on the microphone. Mr. Deputy, last time I was talking about Mrs. Carrie Lam and why she should receive a pay cut because she's the head of the government, and if she's not able to do her job by supervising her staff properly, and as a result we have had this problem resulting in the administration losing its credibility. I think this is a major mistake on her part. And I'd just like to say that as far as Mrs. Lam is concerned, she's used to issuing very strong statements to showcase her authority. If you had been able to discipline yourself and then you try to extend it to others, then of course that's not a problem. But then, well, when bureau directors have made mistakes, if she had not been able to come forward and point it out right away by instructing the relevant bureau director to take appropriate actions, in other words, they failed to admit mistakes, and as a result, that might have further undermined the authority of the administration. I'd just like to cite a recent example involving the MTRCL. As you can see, the same applies to Paul Chan on 2 occasions. So it's the second time already. There was a public outcry, and yet the official concerned still continue in their post. That's because Carrie Lam herself is also the same kind of person. So she has failed to live up to her promise, and even after she has made mistakes, she has refused to admit them. I can cite an example. When Mrs. Lam was still a bureau director, she's responsible for planning the development of East Kowloon. Indeed, much of the development in East Kowloon was planned by her. Mr. Lau, so you're referring to the Chief Secretary's days as a bureau director. What has that got to do with your proposal to cut her pay? Because she refused to admit mistakes, and that's still developing right now, and I'm sure Ms. Chen Yun-han has been complaining about the blueprint in East Kowloon. Well, both women officials have refused to admit mistakes when they made one, and all right, apparently, well, Mrs. Chen just blamed it on the overriding circumstances, and Mr. Leung, I think you're digressing, so please speak to the point. Please do not think about other things. Well, Mr. Leung, I've already reminded you that you've digressed. Please come back to the subject of the debate. Well, both have refused to admit mistakes. That's why they have both made mistakes. You're referring to the CS for administration, and you're proposing to cut her pay. So can you return to that subject? Well, you might be too somber to understand what I'm going to say. All right, when there is a mistake that the whole world can see, well, however senior your post might be, well, that mistake would not go away despite the fact that you've been promoted. So when your subordinates have made a similar mistake, and if you refuse to admit a mistake that you had made earlier, then how can you expect them to admit the same mistakes? So when you ask Anthony Cheung to admit mistakes, well, when you yourself have refused to admit your own mistakes earlier, then how can you expect him to admit mistakes now? So I'm sure, Mr. Deputy, you will understand that at the House Committee, when you chair meetings like Lo Wai Kwok, then would you think that I would have faith in you? Of course not. It's as simple as that. All right, if you have done a good job, then everybody will follow suit. So Carrie Lam, after she has become the Chief Secretary for Administration, she still adopts the same stance. All right, she has failed to do anything about subdivided units, and she never apologized for that. So when she told Paul Chan that we had to revitalize industrial buildings and we had to come up with 10,000 de facto subdivided units, and they have both failed to do that. Well, they did not admit mistakes. The only thing that we were told was that the cost would be too high. So initially, you should have known it. How come you still claim that you would be doing that? So, Mr. Deputy, well, you're right. If we just go back on history, that's not good. Now, let me turn to something new. Well, after she has assumed office, there were three things. One is population policy, second, poverty alleviation, and third, constitutional reforms. So these are the three main tasks that she has undertaken. So let's see how she performed in each and every one of these. All right, for poverty alleviation, that's a major issue. So she has already decided that we will set the poverty line so that for people earning less than 50% of the median wage or median income, then they would be defined as living below the poverty line. Well, when it comes to the median, all right, it's just arithmetic. So you try to have the upper half and the lower half, but then to what extent are those earning less than the median living in poverty? So you're actually saying that for those below the median, so to what extent are they poor? So it's not just about identifying those who are poor because you have the new way to find them out or measure it. Well, Mr. Deputy, after you have bought this thermometer, all right, it tells you that it's 28 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Celsius. And you say that, all right, it's nice to know that it's 32 degrees Celsius. So are you going to take off your clothes or your clothing, or are you going to turn on the air conditioner? All right, for Carrie Lam, she already measured the poverty line. She is the Chief Secretary for Administration, and then next to her, she has the Financial Secretary. I've criticized him 7 times. So has John Zhang listened to her? All right, she is more senior than John Zhang. All right, you're trying to lift people out of poverty. You know who these people are, and yet you have no idea as to how poor they are. On top of that, what measures do you have to help them improve their livelihood? Mr. Deputy, definitely by adopting this approach, there are bound to be poor people. Unless you have an actual means to measure poverty, for example, for the average annual income, if it's less than $220,000, then they are poor people. And yet, after she had learned this, the only credit she can gain is that she now knows who are the poor people. But then there is no way that she is able to improve their livelihood. So you are the chairman of the House Committee, because you're not chairman of the Finance Committee, you might not have a very good idea as to what's happening. So what has she done? All right, OALA. All right. And then for the low-income subsidy, all right, this is really quite tricky. What does that mean? Because you have the strategy, you have the targets, and yet none of these has been achieved. Initially, she said that this is to prevent intergenerational poverty. So you are poor in this generation. What happens? We don't want to see intergenerational poverty. This is really a very mean way to put it. Why has the administration refused to take out money to help the current elderly poor? Because they're going to die soon. So this is really quite heartless. So the first definition is, all right, I'm going to take care of your children, but then I'm not going to take care of the mother.
When old people hear that, well, perhaps old people are a bit slower, so they don't know they should be angry about that. But if you, so you say you take, so you said you take care of the children. What about the elderly then? There's no universal retirement protection because they don't. She doesn't see that as intergenerational poverty. She sees it that the old, would have died. So then when they have reincarnated, then they would take care of the children. So that's why she's got wisdom. Now she's in charge of poverty alleviation, but the very first statement she makes is wrong. As you know, there is a lot of controversy in this council because of the flawed policies of the government. Many old people don't get places at homes. They couldn't support themselves. It's because the government starts off on the wrong foot. So that's why for the low-income family assistance, it has nothing to do with the elderly. Well, they're helping children. New children will get an extra $800 extra, but not elderly. They're not helping them. I can give you some figures. You'll be angry about that. The elderly makes up 1/3 of the poor population. Children, different than old people. When children become a year older, they're closer to the age when they could start making a living. And old people, when they get older by a year, they become they become more fragile. They can't take care of themselves. So shouldn't you be helping both groups, not just the children and not the elderly? So you say you just take care of the children, but you don't care about the elderly poor. I think that's ridiculous. So you look at Carrie Lam. Carrie Lam makes a lot of noise, and sometimes she lectures me, and she even teaches the president how to manage the members. There's a Greek philosopher who said, if you're ignorant, then it's smart to keep quiet. But if you are educated, then it's not smart to stay quiet. If Carrie Lam is so incompetent, she should just shut up. But she's been educated. But then she stays silent on certain issues, on major issues of right and wrong. So in the community, I've heard a lot because of this policy that has caused many family tragedies. A core family in Hong Kong makes up of a couple. They have to take care of their parents, and they have to also take care of their children. So you say that I'll only take care of your children, but then do you expect these couples to take care of their parents? And so that causes a rift in the family. Because you're teaching children that there shouldn't be intergenerational poverty, but you can just ignore your grandparents because they have nothing to do with intergenerational poverty. But aren't we supposed to respect the elderly? Aren't we supposed to take good care of our senior citizens? That's how it should be, isn't it? You know, these are senior citizens who have contributed to society. So that's why Carrie Lam has made a fundamental mistake in her work on poverty alleviation. And when people ask her questions, she can't answer it. You know, when it comes to the low-income family assistance, she said, we just try to keep people in employment. And on the ASAP test, or means test, and then there's another rule: if you work less than 208 hours, you can't get allowance. And she said because then people won't want to be motivated to work. So she's being very mean, and the policy is not specific enough. Let's say if a couple could spend more time taking care of their children, that is, if they don't have to work 208 hours and they get the $1,000. So that means you count only 144 hours, working hours. And then the couple would have more time to spend with their children. You know, middle class can take their children on holiday, but for the poor, the children never get to see their parents until 11 or 12 midnight. So can't you not allow them to work 2 hours less? So there won't be intergenerational poverty in terms of emotions. Carrie Lam, you flew over to visit your son, but then these people, they can't see their children when they get home. What sort of policy is that? Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Raymond Chen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Head 72, ICAC. I'd like to speak. Mr. Chairman, point of order. Mr. Kwok-hung, I call for a quorum. Clerk, please. Mr. Wong Kwok-hung, we can hear you very clearly.
陳志全議員。
Mr. Raymond Chen. Thank you, Mr. Deputy. I'd like to speak on Head 72 ICAC. There are 13 amendments from numbers 753 to 769 are relevant. Before I tell you my justifications for supporting these amendments, let's take a look at the details of the head. As we all know, the ICAC is responsible for combating corruption in Hong Kong. In fact, it does more than that. Under Head 72, there are 4 programs: 1, corruption prevention; 2, operations, that is to fight graft; 3, preventive education; and 4, enlisting support. Corruption prevention is to identify and eliminate opportunities for corruption in government departments and public bodies, and advise the private sector on corruption prevention. The provision for this program is not very substantial. Of course, the largest portion of the budget goes to Program 2. In 2013-14, the revised spending was $707.3 million. And Program 3, preventive education. The aim is to promote better public understanding of the corruption problem and encourage target groups to take positive action. In fact, the image of ICAC has suffered a fatal blow recently, and it cannot be really a role model for the community if it doesn't practice what it preaches. And under Program 3, preventive education, well, the original budget in 2013-14 was $82.1 million, when in fact only $76.2 million were spent. There was underspending by 7%. This is very strange. How come ICAC has not fully spent its funding, although it has been given money to do it? Is it because it has not done its utmost in preventive education? Now, for this program, there are matters to note. It is to launch a series of education publicity activities for rural elections scheduled for early 2015. I don't know whether you have read, have you seen the cover story of magazine? The rural people have patronized prostitutions collectively. So please, for this, you must give special attention. Program 4, enlisting support. You don't know what is meant by enlisting support by just reading this heading. Again, the actual spending was 7% lower than its original budget. $84.6 million was budgeted, but only $78.8 million were spent. The aim here is to promote public awareness of the evils of corruption, foster public confidence in and support for the work of the ICAC, and encouraging report of corruption offenses. 2013 was a particularly challenging year for the ICAC. I fail to see why ICAC spent less than was provided for enlisting support. Is it because, well, it felt that since its image was tarnished, it would be pouring money down the drains if it spent money on enlisting support, and therefore has decided to save the money for future use? Why do we want to cut the budget for ICAC? The most harsh, the most draconian cut here is to cut it by $761.5 million, when the total provision is just $937.1 billion. So we really support ICAC, but why are we so brutal as to support Mr. Leung Kwok-hung's proposed amendments? Because ICAC is dysfunctional. It has broken down from its normal functions. How can we ensure that it can promote clean integrity and ethics in Hong Kong? How is it going to get $700 million from us for corruption prevention? Just yesterday, in a security panel meeting, ICAC came to give us an account of how it tackled cross-border corruption activities. Of course, at the meeting, we asked whether Donald Tsang's scandal was a kind of cross-border corruption and bribery. And of course it is, because he enjoyed favors across the border. However, the ICAC has yet to give us an update of its progress of investigation. And yesterday, ICAC was asked whether the investigation was still ongoing, whether Donald Tsang has provided assistance, whether ICAC had interviewed him, and I think you can all guess the answers. Mr. Wong, head of operations, said he would not comment on individual cases. He refused to disclose details of the case. Still, he said the following: the case was still in progress. ICAC used to enjoy excellent image. Of course, it enjoy a higher standing than the police, so long as ICAC could tell us that it would continue to investigate the case, we could all be assured. However, the senior official from the ICAC told us that the case was still in progress. Well, I don't know what kind of an answer that is. You should rather say we're still investigating the case, and yet he said the case is still in progress. Of course, the council as well as the community are very worried that the case the investigation might come to nothing. We're worried that the ICAC might be more interested in catching the flies than the big tigers. I won't say that the ICAC has suffered a big slump in his reputation, but still it is not doing well. With the new commissioner, Simon Papp, of course the situation might be a little bit better, but we're not sure. And the ICAC told us that it was not going to investigate Mr. Barry Zhang, head of the Hong Kong Commodities Exchange. And ICAC said that the decision got the support of its review committee. In fact, the ICAC took the initiative to investigate many cases, just like the cover story of this magazine. ICAC should initiate an investigation and suspected, and also Mr. Mak Chi-chuen, the former Secretary for Development, who was suspected to have cheated the government of housing allowance. And yet the administration or ICAC said that such accusations could not be confirmed, and therefore would not initiate any investigation. Now, we do support Mr. Leung Kwok-hung's 13 amendments. Why has ICAC deviated from its past practice? Can it just say that is an individual case only? And yesterday at the security panel meeting, members said that the credibility of ICAC was undermined by its former commissioner, Timothy Tong. He abused his power. He used favors, gifts, and snacks to win favors from mainland officials, and I think that has dealt a very heavy blow to the image of ICAC. And Mr. Song Lin, Secretary General of CLC now, he used to be the chairman of the Ethics Development Committee of ICAC, and the commission only replaced him. After a few days, the news was leaked, and according to the commissioner, Simon Pei, the Ethics Committee's Development Committee was formed by 6 local chambers of commerce, and coincidentally, it was Mr. Song's turn to be the chairman. Once ICAC has received notice and was no longer appropriate to be the chairman, and with the consent of the other 5 trade associations or chambers of commerce, they decided to replace him. And Ethics Development Committee, the work of ethics development was actually done by the staff of ICAC, and the committee only serves as a bridge, and the members have nothing to do. In fact, this advisory committee is for window dressing. It has no real functions. We don't know why they have meetings. Perhaps it's just an opportunity for them to sit down, get together, and meet each other. The actual work is done by staff of the ICAC. Well, we say that the constitutional reform is just fake consultation. So is the Ethics Development Advisory Committee. Preventive education is done by internal resources of the ICAC. The Commission has responded too slowly to this case and is now put in a very difficult position. In fact, ICAC is rotten. We should support these amendments to show our regret for the performance of the ICAC. And at the Security Panel meeting, it was quoted by some members that some officials from the mainland have come to Hong Kong and had secret meetings with ICAC to exert pressure on the Commission on a few cases involving mainlanders. And some members said that we should not treat hearsay reports in the newspaper to be true. And Mr. Wong said that it was entirely not true. When members asked whether ICAC knew these officials, whether there were meetings between them, then Mr. Xu Ban was reported to have exerted pressure on ICAC. The Assistant Commissioner did not found it convenient to comment on this matter, just said that ICAC would act according to his procedures and would not allow anything to interfere with independent investigations. The ICAC is not functioning well. There have been signs. Even the government has tried to let people feel that ICAC is a toothless tiger, and it serves as a political hitman for the government, and therefore we should not give the commissioner the full provision sought here.
Recently, the PAC of this council has been looking at the audit report and has been criticizing the operation of the Mega Events Fund, and we are having some public hearings, and dating back to 2010, the ICAC already gave advice that with the changing for the better of our economy, the MEF has already completed its mission, and there is no need for it to continue its operation, and therefore the unused funds should be returned to the government. But then in 2012, the administration came to this council's finance committee to apply for additional injection into the MEF. And yet, with regard to the advice given by the ICAC, no mention was made whatsoever. Who else would like to speak? Albert Chen.